Um, yeah, I've been wanting to do this for a while, so I might as well just get started. I'm 37 years old. I've been wanting to do YouTube and, more importantly, make films and create content before creating content was really discussion in a big way. It was just this idea of making movies and telling stories. I would go on to do poetry slams, try my hand at a few open mics, doing like a story slam, a monologue slam, poetry slam. So the idea of performance always fascinated me. The idea of, and the practice of interacting with the audience and also making short films. Like I dabbled in all of it. And there was this friction point about not just the technology, but also this friction point when it came to organization. I think that was the big one, where just keeping track of all my files, keeping track of my gear, keeping track of the storyboard. I mean, I think the only time that it felt most manageable was when I was doing a story performance. I would do a small little poetry reading, or I would do a monologue performance or a story slam where I would have a story written and performed, and or the same thing with open mic night. Those were more manageable, but then nowhere near as fulfilling. So I would get in my head and play it out on some level. I would imagine that even if all the stars aligned and I got good at this craft, it never, the craft in and of itself was nowhere near as fulfilling. So there was this friction point that I would just sit with. And the weirdest thing is, when it came to film, my friction point was just the whole industry, because I also work as a grip. So I would kind of toil away, and I still do toil away every time. I mean, not recently because of the strike, but since the strike let up, the productions in Vancouver are starting to pick up again, starting to get calls again. But the friction point with the industry is the bloat. So it's these two sides of it. One, which is storytelling on a really basic, rudimentary level when it's just me, and then storytelling when it's big and massive, and or even when it's small with friends, and just the organization, even with friends, that pressure in and of itself, when asked, like, oh, do you want this shot or that shot? Do you want this shirt or that shirt? Or like, how do you want this framed? I would default with, I don't know, what do you want? Which is the exact opposite of what a director needs to be. If someone's leading the ship, they have to take ownership with the creative direction. And so the point of me starting this whole YouTube, starting back up again, because I did a few videos back in 2019, 2018. I even, tried my hand at this, and where I would get caught up and overwhelmed just in the simple act of recording a video in the past, that I'm now rectifying for, is believing in the value of my own honesty, of just saying, this is where I've been, this is where I'm going, these are the results I've gotten, as well as this is where I found a lot of value. Because fundamentally, the act of spotlighting myself, which is in essence what I would experience when a friend would ask me what I want, I would dissociate. I would get anxious and I would dissociate. But I didn't have the words for it back then. I didn't even have the words for it really when I tried my hand at YouTube 3 years ago. So now, better equipped after having a year and a half of therapy under my belt, one-on-one therapy, because before the one-on-one therapy, I did a lot of group therapy. I did Landmark and Tony Robbins, and it was powerful, but at the same time, it wasn't focused on me. I wasn't being spotlighted. So it was easy for me to hide. It was easy for me to take on the role of not just caretaker, but advice giver. And I know I would learn things along the way, but yeah, that's a bit of a tangent. The tangent basically being that it's easy for me to dissociate, to caretake, to have advice, to have value, but at the same time, when it comes to spotlighting myself, which is the great thing about this whole YouTube platform, I mean, obviously you can make whatever you want. You don't have to spotlight yourself, but I know that for me, that's what I require the most. I used to make that about vanity. I think that's where the idea of spotlighting myself seemed ridiculous. So it's funny how the very thing that I needed the most, I would also shun, and I would hate. I would hate basically the ego that would be self-inflated. I would hate, and genuinely, it would cause me to feel uncomfortable in my own body when I watched someone else, like a good public figure, as an example, would be like a Paris Hilton or a Donald Trump or someone who just would soak up the spotlight. Like my critiquing self would just project a lot of physical discomfort. Like I would experience physical discomfort, which is a solid sign that there's something there for me to work on, something there for me to integrate. So all that to be said, that this whole sharing the journey process, sharing where I'm at, sharing the values I'm finding, my insights, and in fundamental large part, the act of me recording this right now is happening because of this intention that I've set with my brother. Like I'm right now in the living room of my parents' home, and because I have such a great capacity, like I said earlier in this video, to just dissociate, just the sheer act of having my brother here, like we're both gonna encourage each other just to focus for whatever point in time, to say whatever needs to be said, whatever we wish to share with the world. And whether or not him and I continue to do this on a week-to-week basis, I know that at least this first video is a demonstration of the open space, basically holding space, where, similar to therapy, allowing the other just to share publicly without criticism. Because fundamentally, what him and I are both very good at, as much as we're good at holding space, we're also good at criticism. We're great at doing our best to be critical, to give constructive criticism, to sort of say where things don't make sense. So this is a different experience for both of us, where as much as we're great at listening to each other, we're also working on this new chapter of our lives where we're encouraging each other to share. Instead of saying, well, this is what we should do, this is like, instead of something strategic, it's literally just the act of being open and real, and saying what's up and what's going on for us, and allowing ourselves to record it and then share it with the world if we so choose. So that's the spine of this thing. That's the initial impetus, and yeah, this will be my first imperfect video in this imperfect process, and I'm personally excited to see where this goes. So if that interests you, stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.